Why is Muhammad such an easy target for us? According to me, it's because Muhammad was the most obvious false prophet in history. According to Robert, it's because the people inventing Muhammad for their new religion made him sound like the most obvious false prophet in history, when they could have made him sound like absolutely anything they wanted. The most reliable, most trustworthy, most miraculous person who've ever walked the planet. Instead, they come up with a guy who thought he was demon-possessed, repeatedly tried to commit suicide, delivered revelations from Satan, was a victim of a magic spell, delivered false prophecies, accepted a meal prepared by a woman whose family had just slaughtered, dying like a rat, and being completely exposed as a false prophet. Just doesn't make sense. When we look at the Muslim sources, we learn that the prophet married more women and girls than his own revelations allowed, married the wife of his own adopted son after causing the divorce by lusting after her, loved sucking on the tongues of little boys, was constantly covered in semen, and left us with a pretty good idea of where that semen came from, and he died in exactly the way the Quran said he would die if he was a false prophet. That's what they came up with. A Jewish woman offers to cook Muhammad a meal, even though he just slaughtered her entire family. There are about 8 billion people in the world. You could ask all 8 billion people, if you just slaughtered a woman's entire family and she says, hey, I'd like to cook dinner for you, is that a good idea to accept that offer? 8 billion out of 8 billion people will say that is the dumbest idea ever. Do not do that. Muhammad is the one exception in all of history who thought, gee, this is a great plan. The poison ate away at Muhammad's internal organs and he died in horrible agony. Because look at what Muhammad said when he was dying. I continued to feel pain from the morsel which I had eaten at Khaybar. This is the time when it has cut off my aorta. Why is that a strange detail to invent if you're making up stories about Muhammad? Because according to the Quran, that's exactly how Muhammad was told he would die if he was a false prophet. Surah 69 verses 44 to 46, Allah declares, and if he, Muhammad, had fabricated against us some of the sayings, we would certainly have seized him by the right hand, then we would certainly have cut off his aorta. How did Muhammad die? He died going, I feel my aorta being cut. I gave a list of things that we certainly would find sick and repulsive. The story of Muhammad and Zainab, his adopted son's wife, that he sees her practically naked. His adopted son divorces her so that Muhammad can have her. Muhammad marries her. This caused a big scandal. People were really upset about this, according to the Muslim sources. They thought of it as on the level of incest. And the result was that Allah had to abolish adoption to make it so that this guy was never his adopted son. It didn't count in order to justify this. And with the Satanic Verses story is Muhammad, again, wants his tribe to accept his revelation. So he wants a revelation that's going to make his tribe convert to Islam. And then Satan gives him what he's looking for. Muhammad delivers this revelation promoting polytheism, saying you can pray to pagan goddesses now. But a little later, Muhammad came back and said that these verses, which he had delivered as part of the Quran, weren't really from God. They were from Satan. And he replaced them with the words we find in the Quran today. Now, if you wanted to invent a prophet and you wanted to make shirk, associating partners with Allah, the worst possible sin anyone could ever commit, would you portray your new prophet as a man who committed shirk and convinced the entire Muslim community of his time to commit shirk with him, and portray him as someone who couldn't tell the difference between a revelation from God and a revelation from Satan?